Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are today. Uh, Warm welcome to this 53rd edition of What's Cooking Digital Agriculture webinar series. This series has blossomed during COVID period. We never had so much going for learning on digital and data-driven technologies because people were facing these issues day in and day out, particularly in relation to agriculture and food systems. Supply chains were collapsing, and the need for data and digital approaches became very evident. So basically, this series brings in thought leaders, innovators, startup founders, CEOs, and public sector leaders and others who really come and present innovations as they happen. And also, we talk about some scaled up innovations which are happening there. The World Bank has clearly a large portfolio in India, about 12, 13 billion cumulative, and about 2 to 3 billion every year in agriculture and food space. And clearly, we also work at the policy level and also on the public good side to make the private good really work. So today's event is very important, and I'm glad to be also hosting this jointly with Omnivore and Mark, because I think it's very important to highlight that Omnivore has been an important partner in the EdTech space there. We also have our own colleagues from World Bank and IFC here, because we would like to work with you and collaborate as we go forward. The purpose is not to just listen to the presentations, but see whether we can come with a value proposition which goes forward. So all these presentations are available on our Open Learning Campus link website, which is again it is about 4,000 people all over the world look at this Open Learning Campus and access this material after the event is over. And it's a very popular website, and even a lot of senior decision makers use this site there. And we would also host this on our digital agriculture website as well. I would also request you to put your questions as they come in the chat. And I would request all our panelists and presenters to respond through the chat, because that becomes much more effective and a virtual dialogue starts going while the presentations are going on. So please ask the questions after the first presentation itself. And we will also harvest some key questions at the end of it and see if we can also put one more or two more rounds of questions to the panelists at the end, so that we can draw some conclusions at the end. We would request you not to interrupt and keep your mics muted, as is the protocol there. There was a huge response to this announcement, and I'm expecting that even more people will join. Some of the last minute people who would come in. So already we have about 98 people, but I'm expecting more people would join as they come in. So without further ado, what we are following is the processes that we have all Mark from Omnivore, who sets the context first, and then we have the 5 panelists talking about their business models, innovations, and then we have 2 discussants from World Bank and IFC. Preeti and Peter talk briefly, 5 minutes each, and then we will open the conversation for panel discussion, kind of a Q&A, kind of a moderated Q&A at the end. So over to you, Mark, to kick us off today, and many thanks for joining us. Mark, as you know, is the founder of Omnivore. He has many other incarnations in the private sector. You already have his CV there. I won't spend time on that. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Parmesh. It's a pleasure to be here and to have a chance to present to everyone. And many thanks to Vivek also for all of his hard work, and everyone from the World Bank and the IFC for making this event possible. We started talking about this event, I guess, a few months back, Parmesh, Vivek, and myself. we wanted to talk about what had been happening in digital agriculture in India over the last few years and put together a panel that was representative of those changes. Omnivore has been doing agri-tech since I think before anyone called it agri-tech. We started investing in 2011 in what we then called innovative agriculture. And for the first few years, if I look at what the kinds of startups we supported, in retrospect, we were supporting a lot of things that we would consider now to be pre-digital. Innovative hardware, innovative inputs. But over the course of the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years, the ecosystem of agri-tech in India has taken off, but it has also fundamentally changed. And the thing we think, the trend, the subsector that we see really driving that change are what we've taken to calling farmer platforms. And farmer platforms essentially ride on top of the digital infrastructure that has been built in India over the course of the last decade. So when we look back and say, okay, why weren't there farmer platforms in 2008 or farmer platforms in 2010? Well, there wasn't 4G, there weren't cheap smartphones, definitely wasn't UPI and the payments infrastructure and Aadhaar. But basically, as digital infrastructure and telecommunications infrastructure was built throughout India, going from urban and eventually across rural India, it has given birth to a new generation of startups that are trying to transform the lives of India's 130 million farmers and their families and the rural communities and the ecosystem in which they live. And our shorthand for that is farmer platforms. And so I'm going to share my screen, which is something that I hate doing, but please tell me if you can see this. Is this clear enough for everyone?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Very good. So when we think about a farmer platform, and we have 5 of them here today from the Omnivore portfolio, we think of farmer platforms this way. We see farmer platforms as using digital infrastructure, right, and sometimes physical infrastructure to provide products and services to farmers across the entire agricultural life cycle. And all farmer platforms are different. I mean, there are increasingly clones of each other, but when we distill what a digital farmer platform is, we like to think of it as a mix of really 3 pre-harvest services and 3 post-harvest services. Pre-harvest, we see farmer platforms working in input linkages, where they're providing access to high-quality farm inputs at fair prices. We see them working in input financing, where they're enabling low-cost formal financing for the farmers to purchase those inputs. Farmer advisory, where farmers are being provided with agronomy and extension services, usually digitally, sometimes with a physical and digital component. Output storage, because it's oftentimes very difficult for farmers to access storage, warehousing, and logistics services. Output linkages, helping farmers to sell their produce, building robust marketing channels and avenues for value addition. And finally, output financing, unlocking that post-harvest working capital for farmers. And it's not that every farmer platform does all of these. Typically, what we see are farmer platforms usually start in 1 or 2 of these areas before then expanding to capture other adjacent opportunities. Another shorthand way of saying this is everything eventually becomes fintech. It's not necessarily true, but there is some truth to it. And if we look at the various farmer platforms that we've brought onto the seminar today, to the webinar today to talk and share their experiences, we made a slide so that we think it will help people to understand. So I would think about this mix of services, right? Input linkages, input financing, farmer advisory, output storage, output linkages, and output financing. And then I would think of value chains. right? Easiest way to think of value chains, you've got grain, you've got horticulture, you've got fiber like cotton or silk, you've got dairy, you've got aquaculture. Obviously, there are a few more. You could say there's spices, you could say that there's, poultry, goats. But broadly, if we were to take the participants in the call today and sort of map them on this, just to contextualize where everyone's coming from, DeHaat, right, is one of the largest farmer platforms in India, and they operate across grain and horticulture, and they operate across most of these. Input linkages, they certainly are selling huge amounts of crop inputs, providing financing, providing advisory, and helping farmers to sell their outputs. If we look at Arya, Arya oftentimes talks about itself as a post-harvest farmer platform. And so you see there that Arya is not really on the input side, but across storage and linkages and financing, that's really where they play. And in both grain and fiber, really in the non-perishable space. Then you've got Reshamandi, where we have Mayank, who's the CEO there. And Reshamandi is just in the fiber space. They have been building in the silk space, which is, about a $7 to $8 billion TAM in India, but now also entering with their full stack model, which goes all the way from, on the output side, from a farmer to a reeler to a weaver to a retailer into other natural fibers. We have Kirti from Animall, and they focus, two wonderful co-founders there that focus on just the dairy sector, which in India obviously is 80 million farmers and 300 million head of cattle. So it's certainly about a quarter of the Indian agricultural economy and about, I would say, 4% of India's GDP. And finally, we have Aquaconnect, and they're, as it sounds, just focused on the aquaculture sector, which is a $20 billion economy between shrimp and fish in India, and working in all parts of it, inputs and outputs. Animall being concentrated more on the input side of things and not so much in the milk itself. And so I think this was a useful snapshot before I shut up and let the people that are making the change on the ground talk. This is how Omnivore sees farmer platforms. We believe farmer platforms are really leading the charge for the transformation of the lives of farmers and rural communities. And we think you're going to see these being among the largest agri-tech startups in India as these companies scale, many of them having already achieved quite some size. And we think this transformation will continue at an incredible clip over the next few years. So we're excited to have you listen to the stories of DeHaat and Arya and Reshamandi and Animall and Aquaconnect. And I am now going to do what I promised, what I promised Parmesh and Vivek, and that is respond to questions in the chat. So I will drop the sharing and turn things over to our first presenter. And again, thank you for having us here, and thank you for hosting our, these 5 portfolio companies. We're very, very proud of the work they're doing.
Okay, let me briefly introduce Shashank so that he's introduced properly into the system. And so Shashank is the co-founder, CEO of DeHaat, and you will hear about DeHaat more, but he has a very interesting pedigree. He is from IIT, and he's also worked in very interesting set of situations before founding DeHaat. And he has been on a lot of lists, Forbes, under 30, under 40, whenever the list comes, Shashank is on that list. And he's been also recognized by Niti Aayog, Ashoka Fellow, and lots of other recognitions. So we're really looking forward to DeHaat's presentation. And over to you, Shashank.
Thanks, Parmesh sir. Thanks for the kind words. Thanks, Mark, for setting up the tone. Hi, everyone. My name is Shashank. I'm one of the co-founders of DeHaat, and again, would love to talk more about DeHaat in next 10 minutes. So it's a full stack platform for Indian farmers. While the tone is already set here, when it's all about creating a digital ecosystem around farmers, and that has been a consistent focus for DeHaat since beginning. It's been 9 years of long journey for us, but again, the good part is that it looks like it's just a new beginning, right? The kind of sector we are in, the kind of size of the problem statement we see. So it all started with few trigger points for us. And trigger points like in India, there are more than 100 million farmers who have been into farming, but still looking for better access to multiple agriculture value chain services. Trigger points like the total market size, so-called the TAM, which is more than $350 billion market, but still the sector holds a bunch of inefficiency. And the trigger point, what partly Mark already covered, which is the increasing penetration of mobile and internet. So around these three trigger points back in 2011, back in 2012, we started thinking that why we cannot build a large sustainable working model between these millions of farmers and billions of $1 billion of businesses. Why we can't build a technology or a data-led platform to bring these two entities together. Where we are today, as a quick summary, that that one side of our platform, there are more than 1,000 unique businesses as agri output buyers or as agri output buyers or agri input suppliers or financial institution. So there are more than 1,000 unique businesses or institution at one end of the platform. At the another end, we could aggregate a digitized network of more than 0.7 million farmers. And at the same time, we also have been building our own last mile network, a network of exclusive franchise network of micro entrepreneurs, so which is as on date close to 5,000. But before talking more about these things, if I take a step back and if I talk about the way how we have redefined the problem statement for us, just a second. Yeah, sorry. So this is the way how we look at the space. It's not around a specific crop. It's not around specific subsector of the entire agriculture value chain. It's all about the farmers across India, regardless of the crop farmers are growing. They have to go through various agricultural needs every season, every year, whether it's access to quality input or advisory or financing or insurance, of course, the offtake or the market linkage part. And as small landholder, which is of course in India, there are more than 85% farmers, they fall under this category. Ironically, for all these various agricultural touch points, they have to rely upon different people, different channel. And during our early days, we learned that how while chasing those different people, different channel, who are not very transparent, not very efficient, more importantly, not synchronized with each other, the small and marginal Indian farmer, they lose efficiency. And that's where most of the farm level or farmers level inefficiency comes from, whether it's low crop yield or low farm gate price realization, not so good quality or great quality of agricultural input, price volatility of agricultural input, and so on, so on, so on. So that's one end of the story which belongs to the farmer side. If we look at another end of supply chain or the value chain, there are businesses. There are agri output bulk buyers such as retail chains, exporters, FMCG players, large processors. There are agri inputs manufacturers, financial institution. So the way how we saw that they all have some business proposition for farmers, but what they do not have is direct access to farmers. And they all have to go through a long layers of intermediaries for their own respective business. And that's where the sector holds inefficiencies such as 40% post-harvest loss, 35% of the input market share, excluding fertilizer, that still belongs to local and spurious brand, low penetration of structured credit or insurance. And I know I can go on and on, but the aerial picture, we could see that between these millions of farmers and between this multi-billion dollar businesses, there are long and parallel multiple P&Ls. And that's where both the entities have been suffering. So this is the problem statement through our lens. And that's exactly what DeHaat has been trying to solve, where we have been building our own network of last mile, where we have been aggregating and digitizing farmers, their wallet share, their land parcels, so that we could bring these farmers and all types of businesses together and closer to each other in a transparent manner, in an efficient manner. So it's not about crop, it's not about services. So it's all about providing complete end-to-end services to farmers for whichever crop they are growing. It's all about providing them support and helping our farmers during each and every stage of their agricultural value chain cycle, which starts from seed and ends to the market. And while connecting these farmers for their every single farming touch point, whether it's seed or fertilizer or crop protection, advisory, now the financing or insurance, logistic, and of course the offtake or the market linkage part, as a platform, we evolved as a one-stop solution for these Indian farmers. So as on date, on our platform, there are these 4 major touch points. We have listed what you're seeing here, which is crop advisory, agri input, financial services, which is the most recent one and very new on the platform. And last not the least is the market linkage of the farm produce. So crop advisory, agri input, and market linkage is something we have been again implementing, working since years. And the financial services is something again we have introduced very recently. As a model, as a platform, we have ensured a very clear, measurable value proposition for each and every actor. So when we talk about agri input for farmers, it's a wide range of basket. So more than 3,000 SKUs from more than 150 brands, standard pricing, no quality adulteration, some cost saving, and hence more and ensuring a productive season ahead. Crop advisory, which is super customized, depending upon which crop they are growing, depending upon their historical input transaction, and depending upon the spatial data. And that's where basically they experience better yield of the crop. On the output side, there are more than 650 buyers, again, wide range of market options, and hence better pricing, fair weighing terms, fair payment terms. You don't have to go to 30-40 kilometer far from all the way from village to your mandi versus your DeHaat center is close to. So there are number of value proposition for farmers at each and every touch point. And at the same time, there are again respective value proposition for those businesses as well, because of the efficiency and because of the transparency we bring as a platform. If I quickly talk about the delivery mechanism, that how these wide and exhaustive range of offerings are available. So every single farmer, they are connected through their mobile phone. So if they are a feature phone user, they speak on toll-free number on call center, or if they are a smartphone user, then there is an app in a local language. And the perception we have built at ground that for any agricultural requirement, if you want to buy anything, if you want to sell anything, or if you have any advisory related queries down the line, if you need financing, if you need insurance, or if you need, for that matter, mechanization, you just need to talk to us. And so that's how these farmers, they communicate with us. This query is again served by our own exclusive franchise and digitized network of micro entrepreneurs, where each micro entrepreneur caters a catchment area of 3 to 5 kilometers, which is equivalent to 8 to 10 villages roughly. The backend of these micro entrepreneurs is completely owned and controlled and supported by us through our technology, through logistic, through a complete bouquet of institutional support. So that's how the network looks like, which is physical as well as digital. The best part is that the overall execution is highly data driven. So today, if any farmer orders any seed, fertilizer, or pesticide, it gets delivered in less than 24 hours. As on date, we are aggregating more than 1,500, 1,700, sometimes more than 2,000 ton of produce, but at any given point of time, there is no price risk for us, there is no inventory risk for us. And that's the reason why this entire model, which is physical as well as digital, is highly sustainable with very clear, measurable value proposition. And that's the reason why our ambition or our goal post has been shifting. So today, as on date, we are talking about aggregating more than 20 million Indian farmers and more than 75 or 80 million of their individual land parcels for this entire agricultural businesses. We are talking about building a network of 35,000 micro entrepreneurs. That means we are talking about building or creating our last mile footprints in more than 350,000 villages of India, which is more than 50% of total number of India villages. These are the revenue streams. We don't charge farmers for advisory, while that's super customized. But whenever there is a transaction, we make money. So when they sell their farm produce, whether it's corn or vegetables or fruits or pulses, we aggregate, we sell to the bulk buyers. That's one of our revenue stream. Similarly, when we sell all these agri inputs, that's another. And this financing piece, which is very recent and still sort of evolving. If I double click again on agri output piece, it's aggregated from farmers by micro entrepreneurs. We bring to our node where we take care of sorting, grading, and packaging, and then it goes to the world of all these retail chains or large exporters, the world of Cargill, Olam, or Amazon for that matter. the beauty or the noticeable part is the way how we have mapped this entire value chain. As you can see that that now this entire mapping is available in form of QR. So that kind of visibility we bring for all these businesses who are aggregating number of farm produce through our platform. The similar network in a reversed order is for agri input, where again there is a transparent distribution network we have built for all these, more than 200 agri input companies, which gives them complete visibility that where each and every sort of again grain of seed is being used at which land parcel, and that kind of visibility they use for their own R&D, for their own strategy in a way. Then the last not the least is the network and database services, where we are bundling a lot of value-added services, which are farmers financing or insurance or any other value-added services, or like mechanization or spraying for that matter. In total, if I talk about current milestones, so again, close to 700,000 farmers, they are active on day-to-day basis. They are buying something, they're selling something, they're raising their advisory related queries. In a way, as a platform, as on date, we are managing more than 1.5 million acres of farm, on day-to-day basis. These farmers are being served by, again, close to 4,500 micro entrepreneurs. As I told that every day we are aggregating 1,700 metric ton of produce. Every day we are delivering close to 11,000 agri input orders to farmers. And more importantly, every month we are spending more than 3 million minutes while talking to farmers, while advising them for sustainable agricultural practices. All these things are possible because of this entire tech stack we have built. As you can see that the way how we have been trying to map the entire agriculture value chain for everyone, for ourselves as well as for businesses, which starts from farms, then farmers, the last mile, and then to businesses part. These are all the different tech interfaces. And again, through all these various tech interfaces, we have been collecting behavioral, transactional, spatial data, and all these data or the interfaces obviously interact with each other. And that's where we bring efficiency and transparency for everyone. So for example, just if I highlight one of the use case, as on date, conventionally, farmers, they harvest the produce and then they go to the closest mandi to sell the produce. However, let's say in our case, we have reversed the process. We first forecast the yield, and before their physical harvesting begins, we start aggregating demand from all those institutional buyers. Right? Same is true on the input side as well, and that's where kind of the efficiency comes from for each and every actor. The similar kind of all these transactional and behavioral data now we have made accessible for all this financial institution, so that farmers, they can get access to finance and insurance as well down the line. And that's the reason why all these businesses, they are active on the platform. They are engaging with the platform. They are getting access to farmers and last mile for their respective businesses. So while again we have grown to where we are, but looks like again it's just a beginning, as I said, because we don't see the point at this number of 0.7 million farmers or 4,500 micro entrepreneurs as current milestone, but we see that there's still millions of other farmers who are unserved, and that's our goal, to build world's largest business to farmer platform in a crop agnostic manner, in a service agnostic manner. So that's all about DeHaat. We'll be happy to answer if there is any question, obviously on chat box. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Shashank. So it's very kind of to present such a large journey and such a complex journey in such a short period, more difficult. Would like everyone else to stick to time a little bit, because we have other interesting presentations coming in. But I'm amazed at how you brought the fragmented parts of the system into a bundled and a digital platform, which is just amazing in a very short period. So something which people say this is going to take a lot of time. So I would urge everyone to tell you also, tell us about how much time it has taken you to develop the proof of concept. And then are you going to go to scale in a more exponential way as you go forward? And Shashank, I will ask you this question later on.
Sure.
Do you have aspiration of becoming an international player from now on, or are you going to first consolidate in India and then go international? So I'm just warning you of this question, which is going to come to you later.
Sure.
Okay. So now I go to Prasanna. And Prasanna, really very innovative innovation. We have been hearing about Arya for quite some time now, and about their yesterday also, I think they managed to get some next round of funding. They're valued at 300 million, I think now. So Prasanna is the co-founder and CEO of Arya.ag, India's largest post-harvest platform. And they have a lot of commodity storage points, and they are trying to build a value proposition on warehousing and storage, which is one of the most unrecognized assets which has not been used in the food system. Prasanna is from IRMA and is also a Chevening Financial Service Fellow from King's College London. Prasanna, over to you. And please try to stick to 10 minutes so that we can have a good discussion at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Parmesh. It's a pleasure, and thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this wonderful panel. I'll try and be as brief as possible. Somehow I'm just not being able to project my screen, so I'll just request Vivek to help me with that. And I think as Vivek does that, I would only sort of say that one of the key triggers of us moving out of our professional lives back in 2013 was the fact that at ICICI Bank, where I was leading the commodity finance business, we realized that while we used to disburse over $1 billion back then, less than 1% of that commodity-backed financing business really reached the farmers. And most of the loans which were given out were all concentrated around tertiary markets, which were more peri-urban in nature. So you would find the bank, or not only ICICI, all banks, including public sector banks, dispersing loans around markets like Kota or say Azadpur or Yashwantpur. And if you were to just travel 100 kilometers away from there, you would see that there was no post-harvest finance available. And that was because there were no other post-harvest services that were available from professionally managed institutions. And that was really the trigger for us to say that there is this huge opportunity which is closer to the farm, which is also very highly meaningful. As Shashank just mentioned, we are living in a state where we have 40% of India's production being wasted before it even goes in for the first level of transaction. So Arya.ag is India's largest post-harvest platform. And as a platform, we basically try and see how we could work around the post-harvest ecosystem. Now, Vivek could move on to the next slide. Imagine an average Indian farmer. She is almost always forced to sell her crop immediately after harvest when the prices are invariably the lowest. She never has the option to hold her produce and wait to sell when the prices are right to buyers beyond her local network. It is this option to store and to reach varied buyers that ensure higher returns to farmers across other developed nations. Similarly, when you look at, say, and imagine a flour mill owner, for example. Next slide, Vivek. He's dependent on a number of middlemen to access his raw material and is invariably never sure of receiving the right quality and quantity to be delivered to him when he needs it. He has no visibility of assured supply aggregated at one place. And we at Arya have been able to create a platform to bring this farmer and the end user together in a manner that ensures best value to both. And yeah, we'll move on to the next slide, Vivek. And this has been done primarily by integrating 3 stacks. We have the infra stack, the finance stack, and the commerce stack. By enabling storage across 10,000 points near the farm gate, and by embedding seamless financing options, we've successfully offered the supply side of the ecosystem, that farmer, the ability to store the produce, when the prices are low, and to actually sell when the prices actually attain a better level, and to sell to buyers much beyond the local network. And this $1 billion grain inventory that is held across these storage points forms an assured and reliable raw material base for the end users across the country. And what we've been also able to do is to embed structured trade finance and trade supply chain solutions to make sure that the demand side's needs are also fulfilled, and thereby being able to democratize supply and demand both. And it is basically this integration of three stacks that has ensured that we today have a reach of about 650,000 farmers across the country through about more than 500 farmer producer organizations. We have about 5,000 supply aggregators on the platform. We cater to the needs of over 100 agri corporations and more than 1,500 SME processors. And this is spread across 56% of the Indian districts across 21 states. And these 10,000 storage points basically represent about 100 million square feet of storage space. And it is this moat which basically provides complete assurance on both ends, thereby helping us address the trust gap between the supply side and the demand side. And what we've seen is that for example, when we look at the infra stack, the supplier is the warehouse owner and the demand comes in from the farmer who wants to store. So the platform really brings these two entities together. As you move to the finance stack, again, you have farmers who are the demand side, and you have lenders, banks, financial institutions, NBFCs on the supply side. On the commerce side, the same farmer then becomes the supplier to the demand which is coming in from the end users. So it's about this transitioning that the platform really provides at each stack, that a supplier here becomes forms the part of the demand on the other side. And the complete assurance and visibility closer to the farm is something which has enabled us to scale to a level where today we can assure commodities worth more than $1.3 billion on the platform. We'll move on to the next slide. And what basically it does is that the integration of technology to create this transparency and reliability is the most important factor which has helped us scale, which has helped us onboard these farmers and other stakeholders onto the platform, helping them interact with each other seamlessly. So today on the infra stack, we basically ensure that where we have warehouses, there is AI-enabled surveillance, real-time monitoring, so that a depositor as well as a buyer can actually be completely assured of the produce which is stored there. We use AI-based technology to assess quality and do away with a lot of manual processes. It is still a journey. I would not say that you would find this across all the warehouses, across the entire inventory. But the good thing about this journey is that we have technologies today available which enable this to happen. And finally, what we've also been able to innovate on and leverage on technology is to address the need of shortage of warehousing space or shortage of storage space by enabling IoT or deploying IoT-enabled hermetic storage in geographies where you do not have any warehouses. And on top of this, once you integrate finance, you then give the freedom to that farmer to be able to avail of this option to hold the produce when she wants to and wait for the prices to be right, to be able to sell across a wide range of buyers. And with this finance stack today, we've been able to establish partnerships with more than 25 banks and financial institutions. And in a year, we enable more than $700 million worth of finance. And this entire thing is also enabled through an auto decisioning engine, which has been created on Arya's platform, which ensures that if there is a farmer or an entity which needs finance, you could actually sanction the loan in less than 3 minutes. The other thing is around the commerce stack, where once there is a certain produce which enters a storage unit or a warehouse, it acquires a digital identity. And this digital identity is available to a wide range of buyers when they want to purchase it. And this intelligent demand and supply matching is something that the platform has been able to achieve. And what we do is that while you ensure that there is finance available to the depositor, what we realized is that finance is the key ingredient to enable commerce, even on the demand side. So if it's a buyer that wants to purchase commodities, ensuring that there are trade finance structures that enable the buyer to procure commodities seamlessly, thereby ensuring that the supply side receives payment with complete assurance, is a key thing that we've been able to integrate again. As we speak today, we are at a rate of about $300 million of commerce as we speak. And as we do that, a few things that have made us relevant in this space is that 90% of our business happens to be located in the primary and secondary markets. That is, when I say primary and secondary, these are markets closer to the farm gate, which are on an average about 50 to 70 or 80 kilometers away from the tertiary markets or the more peri-urban kind of markets. In one of the baseline studies that we did when we sort of entered this business was the distance of a warehouse, an operational warehouse, from a farmer was close to about 97 kilometers when we started out. Today, we've been able to bring this down to close to about 13 kilometers on an average. It is still a longer distance. It is still a journey. Probably there'll be a day soon where we would say that, you know, this is something which is within a kilometer. But that is a journey that we are a part of. The other thing that we've also seen is that 40% of all the borrowers that are that sort of avail finance from our platform happen to be first-time borrowers. That is, these are entities that have been able to access finance formally for the first time. And in terms of the returns to the farmer, we've seen that there is an increase of about 20-30% on an average. And ours is a business which has like a 7-month report card. The farmer stores at some point and sells at the other point. And if there is an increase in price, it is very clearly visible. So that is something that we sort of keep a track of, and that's where we are today. And the whole idea of the Arya.ag platform is to ensure that we create equitable value chains. And that's where we are. So I would stop here and thank you so much for your time.
Parmesh, you're on mute, sir.
Sorry, now I'm sort of also getting jaded a little bit. So, Prasanna, thanks a lot. Much appreciate your presentation. I think how you bring the infra, the finance, and the 3 stacks together, not possible in any other way apart the digital and technology part. And the fact that still you are one of the few people in this space, and I think it's at the tip of the iceberg of what we will be able to do, because essentially my personal work in Bihar, I found that once we bought the whole warehouse receipt concept, the people latched onto it in the maze there, and even you know, the lot of storage companies started opening silos and warehouses as a result of it. So there is a demand pull also which comes in if you have a solution like that. And I would be also interested in knowing that, do you think this solution which you are proposing is universal globally, or is India specific? You know, this question I would ask you in the end again, specifically, so that we draw some lessons from there. But very interesting presentation. So I would move on. We are running 7 minutes behind at this stage. It's not a big deal, but I don't want to increase that number beyond 7 minutes. But thanks, Shashank, and thanks, Mark, for answering questions. And Prasanna, if you could also look at the chat, there are some questions on your way. Please start answering them so that we come with more fundamental questions at the end, as opposed to the clarification questions. We should get them out of the way. Over to Mayank now, and Mayank has a very interesting background, and he's a graduate from National Institute of Fashion Technology, which I think is a very unusual background for a startup. But I have a lot of friends from NIFT who have run very interesting new startups, and I think the fact that you are working on silk and fiber economy is a very important part. Those of you who don't know that they are very important source of income for rural livelihoods all over India and all over the world. And as we move to the circular economy and other issues, these innovations will become very important. So Mayank, over to you. Please describe what Reshamandi does and what are your aspirations as we go forward. We can't hear you, Mayank.
Okay. Now
Yeah,
is
that's
it fine?
Now it's fine. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Thanks, permission. Thanks for inviting me over, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to present. Uh, Reshamandi is primarily like the name suggests. Resha is literally fiber, and Mandi being the market. We are a managed marketplace, primarily starting from the farmers, giving them the inputs, helping them with the productivity enhancements, giving them the market linkage, moving on the supply chain, helping each of the other stakeholders in between who are the processors of the fiber. It could be a reeler in the silk case, or ginner and spinner in the cotton's case, and finally over to the textile mills or the weavers, where we basically get the fabrics or the sarees or the apparels, and then finally over to the retailers. And we primarily work with the SME segment of retailers, not really the brands, though we've now I mean, there is a very little propensity towards the brand that we have right now, but it's primarily the long tail of retailers that we are targeting in India. We see that as a huge opportunity, a missed opportunity by many people. And we have been able to, for the last 1.5 years that we've been in the business, we've been able to work with a lot of stakeholders in and around Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. Now we've expanded further on with the 2 rounds of capital that we raised. But what effectively made Reshamandi work is basically the trust and the transparency that we bring onto the table for all the stakeholders. And that's why our tagline, relationship matters, because at the end of the day, the trust that we bring from the quality enhancements that we do, or the productivity enhancements that we do with all the stakeholders, and also assuring them of the input at the right time, and the finance at the right time, or the output linkage at the right time, kind of make sure that when we are working with either the farmers or any of the other SMB guys or the retailers, all of them kind of have they trust, and they also believe that we are working with all the honesty, and helping them increase their revenues, also helping them make faster turnarounds in terms of their inventory movement. So basically, what is Reshamandi? We are primarily an end-to-end B2B ecosystem, linking all stakeholders in natural fiber space and regenerated fiber space. So one platform, countrywide, we've serviced more than 1,000 pin codes as on today, impacted more than 50,000 stakeholders across these pin codes. What we effectively try and work with on the farmer's leg is to not only provide them just the seeds or the silkworms or anything of that sort, but anything and everything that they'll really look for in terms of being able to get the right pesticides on time or fertilizers on time, and also couple that with the IoT devices that we supply to them, helping them with basically the advisory right on time. For silk, we have also collaborated with Fasal, one of another omnivore portfolio companies, and Shalin being a great friend, so he kind of ventured with us on that journey as well. So it effectively works in this fashion where we have a cluster level collection center where the farmers can come in, they can deposit their cocoons, we'll do the trading with them. Even in cotton's case, that's the effective way of doing it. And then it gets transported to another of our distribution center locally, which is present with the processing units nearby to the processing units within the 10-20 kilometers radius to them. And from there, we do a local distribution. On the reverse logistics, we pick up the yarns, do the testing of it, redistribute that over and over again to the weavers across India, work with these weaving communities again locally to be able to redistribute their final produce, which is the sari or the fabric in this case, to the retailers or the brand that we work with. So effectively, there are 5 layers to what Reshamandi kind of brings to the table. One, of course, we are a managed marketplace. We help with the productivity enhancements. But there is the big layer of quality assurance that we provide. We know what silkworm has been provided, what was the grade of it. We hence know what is the cocoon grade that is coming out of a farm level. We know what kind of rent data that the reeler is basically buying into, and then what is the grade of the yarn that he's going to produce, right? So effectively, basically predictability and it helps the all of these stakeholders in having predictable input linkage, predictable output linkage, and also a predictable working capital with us. Our tech ecosystem is what has been the enabler for us to be able to grow this fast or to be able to work with so many stakeholders. Primarily what we do is our command center, what we call is the basic layer from where we actually we are able to store all the information. This is a homegrown system, but it allows us to connect various marketplaces, the fabric discovery platform, the weavers mobile app, the reelers mobile app, and other discovery platforms that we have for the stakeholders, while also making sure that we are able to talk to the IoT devices, making sure that the discovery level AI and the grading can happen, and we have a patent on AI ML there. Overall, the ecosystem kind of functions where we know which transaction to underwrite when and how much we can pay, give out as a finance, and hence give them a pay later option, sometimes an asset backed loan option. And now on 14th of January, we actually launched an insurance program for all the stakeholders as well in collaboration with OnSurity. We're primarily believers of partnering with as many players as possible, like on the loan side, when we work on the collateral backed loans, we are trying to work with the banks there. But for the pay later options and the working capital management, we are trying to acquire our own NBFC license and then work with the banks on the debt side to make sure that we can get access to priority sector lending, reduce the the interest rate, and be able to provide that to the stakeholders. What effectively works is the super app that everybody has in their hands. People basically get their input marketplace here. They can upload their inventory. They can cross-check the quality. They once they have uploaded the quantity and what they have in hand in terms of the produce, then they will also know exactly how Reshamandi would be able to price it. And then we provide the logistical support on top of it, and of course an online safe payment option, which allows them to partner with us and move forward. I'll basically take you to 2 of the case studies that these are the very initial level customers that we kind of work with. One of them being the Chaki rearing center. Chaki is nothing but the guys who basically hatch out the eggs and make the silk larvas, which is what gets supplied to the farmers. This is effectively what even Marx saw when he came in and invested in us. So basically, Srinivas and these kind of Chaki rearing centers guys, and most of them are BSc agriculture or MSc agricultures. But even after knowing the nuances of what they're doing and scientifically being able to understand it, still they are not able to control their sales and marketing. They see a lot of customer churn. Their net margins are though huge, but there is a huge scope of improvement there. The other problem is, because it's a vendor-client relationship in between them and the farmer, they inadvertently get blamed for any of the crop failure that happens in the farmland. And silk is a crop which basically requires a very, very nuanced understanding of the temperature and humidity to be able to maintain that crop for 21 days. So with us, when we supply them the IoT device on both the sides, with the CRC, we have a SOP format, and we also give them the IoT. We give the IoT to the farmers. It allows us to map the data and be able to transparently tell both of them exactly how to be able to work with each other and help them increase their revenues and also reduce the chances of crop failure. So with us, the farmers see at least an improvement of 15% revenue and reduce the chances of crop failure, and hence the underwriting on the insurance side becomes easier for us. The other guys is, of course, the farmers, and that's what I was talking about, that silk is a crop which which basically sells at 600 rupees a kg, silk cocoon itself. And when it changes color into a yarn, you're looking at anywhere close to 4,500 rupees per kg. It's an expensive crop. It requires a lot of patience on 21-day cycle. But effectively, if you're able to do it, great. Then out of a 1 acre land, you're expected to get 1.25 lakh to 1.5 lakh rupees every month. And if India actually does a great job on silk itself, the market potential that India could look at is anywhere close to $75 billion. But look at today's market, and your Google searches will basically tell you that the total market size of silk is probably around $8 billion. And hence, we've basically, though we are number 2 producer and number 1 consumer, we still are an import deficit country. And that has been our problem statement across all the natural fibers. Jute has gone towards Bangladesh, wool has gone towards Australia. There's so much of problem in terms of making sure that the processing goes right. That's what we assure at Reshamandi. Apart from that, we also work on zero wastage by basically being able to utilize the byproducts, making them more commercial, and then being able to supply it to the other industries. One of the use case being pupa, which comes out as the reeling waste. It's a silkworm, has protein content in it, can be provided to a poultry feed or the shrimp industry and or the fish industry. And we've already started working on the poultry side for this. We are also looking at extracting sericin from the waste cocoons to be able to supply that to the the pharma and the cosmetic industry, because that's what they need for the sericin, your silk protein serums and otherwise. Of course, since we've worked for the last 1.5 years, we've seen that not only we've been able to solve problem, but we've been able to build out trust and transparency with most of the stakeholders. Why people love working with us is because we've been able to provide them the respect that they deserve. There was one LinkedIn article that I wrote very initially when I started Reshamandi, was about how a cup of chai can solve for the issues, and how you can have a better relationship with your stakeholders. Of course, we are very, very young, very excited about our journey forward. But as we move along, we're looking at India becoming a superpower on natural fibers, but we are also expanding further on in terms of finding demand internationally and finding also supply internationally. And that's what Reshamandi is aiming to do here. Thank you so much for giving me time. I hope I didn't take a lot of time here, but thank you so much for this.
Mayank, thanks a lot. That's a very amazing. I never thought that the silk and fiber could get so digitally integrated. It's a very complex system. The readers, viewers, I have interacted with them in Karnataka and many other states in the past. So I think what you've been able to achieve very short period is very remarkable, and we look forward to what you do with this sector and the model as you go forward. Again, there are a lot of international applications on this.
Yeah.
If you think that India has got fragmentation, I have seen globally many places which has got even more fragmented. So,
Yeah, that's true.
so I would now pass over to Kirti. Kirti is co-founder, CEO of Animall, again a very important sector in India. I'm very also curious to know that they started with cattle trading, a very important part. I think trading is a very important part of the business. It's not just milk and but sale of animals is a very important part of how the cattle dairy business happens. So again, Kirti has a very good background again from IIT, but also coming from a family which owns dairy, and so she has a very different perspective of being the participant observer of her own family business. Over to you, Kirti. Please tell us what Animall does and what are your perspectives going forward.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Parmesh. Thank you, Mark, and thank you everyone for joining to listen about Animall, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah. So Animall basically started out of the idea that we wanted to build something for Bharat, and we realized that the next big change that will come in the country will come from rural people getting a deeper and more commercialized access to the smartphones and internet, and we realized that that's where we want to build. It was also a personal call where me and my co-founder came from small towns and villages and we wanted to build for people we have grown up with. And that's how the idea for Animall, and then eventually trying to build something in agri. And then we realized that a lot of smart people like Shashank are already building for agri, and we thought that maybe we can look at dairy farming, which felt like a really large white space. So talking about dairy farming in India, India is the largest market of cattle with 300 million cattle, 75 million dairy farms. Just to put things in perspective, the next big country, the next big country in terms of dairy farming has about 14 million dairy farms. And larger countries have around 1 million dairy farms because their herd sizes are much bigger, making it far more efficient for them. The dairy farming ecosystem, input and output retail together contributes about $250 billion ka market. In terms of inefficiencies, like I spoke, cattle trading, financing, insurance, basically because it's similar to agriculture problem where small land holding size creates a lot of inefficiencies. Small herd size here creates a lot of inefficiencies, and because of that, nobody even wants to work upon that problem. So it's a very fragmented market on the input sides as well. Cattle trading in itself is highly unorganized, inefficient, and initially it used to happen a lot through Pashu Melas, which in the last 5-10 years have definitely gone down, and thanks to COVID have gone down even further, leading to a lot of opacity in the trading market. Apart from that, poor cattle healthcare infrastructure, supply chains is broken. All of this contributes to the fact that India's productivity per cattle is about 1/6 of a mature country like US, while we are the largest dairy farming economy. So what does Animall currently do? Currently, Animall is the largest cattle trading platform. We have a GTV of $500 million, annualized GTV. We have about 9 million, it's going to be 9 million, this is a little old, but 8 million plus dairy farmers who have installed the app in the last 2 years. So what is it that we actually do? We've created a platform, which is the discovery platform, where you can hyper locally go buy and sell your cattle. So on the left, you see a snapshot of the platform, which is the buying page. So people can see what is available and make contact. In the middle, you see we have this is how you sell on the platform, that you have to fill in the information that basically then gets checked by our quality team and gets uploaded on the platform. Lastly, you see is a new value proposition. So the idea was to build a marketplace. So create a marketplace, think of like an Amazon or a Zomato, where sellers and buyers can come and sell. We realized that it is not a mobile phone that you're selling, which a company like Boat can come and register, and all pieces would be same. So quality assessment is extremely critical to this part, and we converted this marketplace to a more managed marketplace where Animall for certain pashus come in between, assesses the pashu and then sells with our own guarantee. So on right you see a listing which is of Animall farms. So we have our own farms where we keep quality assured cattle for sale. So you see a listing of that farm. User reviews, a lot of times we talk about how users have shown a lot of enthusiasm and encouragement for Animall. 2 years ago when we started, and I told in my family in the village that we are starting this, and everybody laughed, that they said that what a joke that you can sell animals online. And today, in about 2 years, the value proposition has been so strong for our users that users call that this is the next revolution. A lot of people have started their businesses because of Animall. People have been able to arrange cattle for the small dairy farms because of Animall. So that journey has been very interesting for us. In terms of growth and scale, these are how our numbers look. On the left, you see our transaction value. We started September 2019, and this is up till December 2021. On the right is a new experiment, which is when we started monetizing. About 2 months back, we converted our platform to a managed marketplace, for which we have 4 farms, the ones you see in black dots. In December, we did sales of about 50 lakhs, so consider some 70 odd pashus. And in Jan, we're looking at about 1.2 CR. The next quarter, the goal, so we see that this is something that has worked. There have been very high uptake from our user base, and so we have aggressive scaling plans, and we're looking to add 30 plus farms in the next quarter. As of now, if I just talk about in terms of listings coming on Animall, we get about 2 lakh listings. So listing is any pashu that comes for sale, which has its pictures, etc., taken on the platform. So we get about 2 lakh listings every month. About 1 million calls get made through Animall every month. Million calls is million buyer-seller contacts. These are some snapshots of our managed marketplace, which is our farm. So our farm is an extension of the app. You select on app what is available on the farm. Then you basically either can get it delivered, or you can come here and take a closer look and then finalize your purchase. Talking about what is Animall's larger vision. So cattle trading is just one part of the whole ecosystem. Our vision is to meaningfully make dairy farming meaningfully profitable. Dairy farming got profitable at the time of first white revolution, when cooperatives and the output side basically got better organized. We think that there is a lot of scope that lies on the input side, which can then make it meaningfully more profitable. We want to do cattle trading, which is what we started. And the idea was that that was a really large pain point, and we wanted to solve for pain points before vitamins. Hence, we started with cattle trading. We first want to solve for that. Then eventually we want to integrate financing and insurance into it. Later on, going on into different parts of the inputs, which is cattle healthcare solutions, artificial insemination, cattle feed, and dairy farming solutions overall. The larger goal is that you think cattle, you think Animall, and for the user, we are a verticalized platform where they see all their dairy farming needs utilized. This is the path forward. I think I already spoke about it, but this is, at least for now, this is this is the order that we think we'll eventually move in. I think an important part of speaking about the company also involves what kind of company internally we are building. So we rest the company on 6 main pillars. A being user centric. In the last 2 years, I think our ability to really just focus on the user has helped us a lot. It has compounded our growth. Even the idea of Animall would not have come if we would not have thought what is it that the user wants. And that's how we identified the industry. That's how we identified what product to build, everything on the platform from a single button to overall layers. And in fact, our idea to create it to a managed marketplace was thought around by keeping the user at the core. Second is first principle thinking. So we believe thinking from fundamentals and not by analogies has helped us really to be able to think fundamentally from how do you make cattle trading the most efficient. That's where we believe such solutions actually create disruptions, and we believe in disruptive thinking than incremental thinking. Third is that we are trying to build a team of a lot of self-starters. We are trying to build where everyone feels that they are building for themselves, that it is their company and they're not working for a company. Fourth is that we believe momentum is everything. If we know what we want to do, then we just really go execute and believe in fast-paced growth. Then it's iterative building. We launch, learn, and repeat. And lastly, integrity. I don't think that needs any explanation. This is the team and our external partners. So we have, Neetu Yadav is co-founder CEO. You have heard a lot from me tonight. Then the rest of the team. Then we have good institutional investors who have shown faith in the market and our capability to execute and think for this market. We feel that we have been very fortunate that as the first startup in this space, a lot of people have shown faith that this market will work. Omnivore, definitely Mark being a very early cheerleader. Apart from that, we have good strategic investors also who joined in because they believed in the vision, or they believed in the idea that the dairy farming eventually will become a lot more efficient. And for us, they work as mentors. Yeah, I think this is it for me. How we describe ourselves, how we tell ourselves what do we do every day and every night is basically building for Bharat.
Thank you very much, Kirti. That's a very excellent.
I was a little bit under pressure, Parmesh. You had a very strict timeline. I hope I made it.
No, I'm giving you a little bit more leeway since you're coming at the end, basically, and this is a very interesting proposition. So I really like the idea of giving an experience of home delivery of cattle, and also giving an experience you can feel the cattle and then buy them at a place. So I think that's something has something going for it, and the old Pashu Melas had also some of these features. But I think if you are bringing a digital end to it and making discovery possible is very interesting. I'm very curious to know how you will bring the veterinary care and other pillars in, since these are already being provided by cooperatives and other kinds of systems already. So what are the value add you are bringing there? Those are some questions there. There are questions for you in the chat also. Please start looking at and responding to them now. But thanks a lot. And last but not the least, I think I hope Raja is still there. He has not left, because the Aquaconnect is also a very interesting kind of proposition, and I think they were awarded the startup prize in the recent startup day or something. I heard about that. So congratulations for that. So so I think I will now hand over to Raja Manohar, the CEO and founder of Aquaconnect. Again, full stack aquaculture fintech platform. And also Raj is also from IIT Kanpur. We don't have everyone from IIT in this case. We have
Diversity of
people
people
from
of
IIT,
IITs
Myanmar,
represented
so we
here.
have quite a bit of variation there. Again, very good pedigree and a very interesting concept. Aquaculture is a very important sector for our country. And so over to you, Raja. Please describe your journey, and you are the last, so you are between the questions and the conclusion. Go ahead, Raja.
Thank you, Parmesh. I would now request Vivek to help me with this slide because I couldn't, see the share button enabled for me. Vivek, could you help me with that one?
And Raj, you're not on camera.
I'm on camera. It's just that WebEx has got some issues with the bandwidth, I guess.
Okay,
Got
so
it.
let me share your slide.
So, am I audible, Mark?
For sure.
Yes,
Yep, there you are.
yes, you are
Right,
audible.
now you're there.
Now we can see you as well. Vivek, can you put the presentation on? And Raj, you can get started.
Sure. Hello, good to all of you. I'm Raj, founder of Aquaconnect, and we are a full stack aquaculture platform that aims at improving the efficiency of the value chain and also farmer finance access through the technology intervention. So we work with about 60,000 shrimp and fish farmers in India and assisting them on improving the farm management practices and access to formal capital and also market linkage solutions. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So people often mistake aquaponics for aquaculture. So here I am kind of reiterating that aquaculture is defined as growing aquatic animals like fish and shrimp in controlled environment like a pond or marine cages. Largely in India, we grow aquatic animals in the ponds. So aquaculture has emerged as a major contributor to growing, for the growing demand of seafood globally. Globally, aquaculture production is exponentially growing, while the marine capture production is stagnating for the last few decades. You would be surprised to know that 75% is coming from aquaculture farms already. Some of these metrics show that India is one of the massive aquaculture producers and exporters in the world. We are the second largest producers of fishes in the world, and we are the largest exporter of frozen shrimp to the world. We contribute to about 1/6 of the farm seafood production globally. So this also showcases that this industry is having about a 10% CAGR for the last decade, and which is faster than our GDP growth. Next slide, please. So while aquaculture is a multi-billion-dollar value chain, it still has several structural challenges that brings down the efficiency, and it also negatively impacts the growth of the sector. So let me quickly walk you through on how it is conducted right now. A farmer gets his seed like a baby shrimp or a fish from the hatchery. He takes it to his pond. A pond is typically an acre of a pond, which will have about 5 to 6 feet deep water into it. So it is very similar to agriculture that we are talking here. He then grows them for a couple of months. He provides feed, supplements to upkeep the growth and water quality. He then goes to the middleman, and the middleman helps him sell the produce to the buyer. So there are some structural challenges for the farmers, as explained by other value chain entrepreneurs as well. So one, he has a challenge of getting unbiased advisory. He has to depend on the local retailers to get those advisory. And again, the access to quality inputs is again a challenge. And during the day, when the day of harvest, he doesn't get the same day payment. He has to wait for a week or two to get the payments done to him. So this in turn delays his next culture as well. So further, he doesn't also get the low cost capital. He has to depend on the middlemen or the local lenders. So where the cost of capital is really, really high. So what we are aiming to do here is a full stack platform that aims to solve the farmers' challenges with the partnership of aqua partners, who are our franchisee store owners. You may call them as a micro entrepreneurs on the ground. And we are also partnering with seafood buyers. So our aqua partners are ensuring that farmers get unbiased advisory, quality inputs, and also the same day payment on harvest. And further, our underlying embedded fintech layer, Aquacred, is energizing every transaction on our platform and brings the advantage of low-cost capital to every stakeholder in this value chain. So I strongly believe that we cannot just improve the farmer income and sustainability by the farm level intervention alone. So we need an intervention with the holistic entire value chain so that it brings benefit to every stakeholder. In turn, that benefits the farmer also. Next slide, please. So for farmers, we had provided omni-channel platform to engage with us. They provide, the aqua partners provide package of practices, access to the right advisory to the farmers to improve the crop performance. Our aqua partners are assisting them in getting the right farm inputs for the farm needs. Also, our post-harvest platform is helping them with the harvest and ensuring the same-day payment for them on the sale of harvest. And we are also able to revolutionize the supply chain of inputs and outputs with the partnership of emerging logistics startups in India. So this ensures low-cost inventory, just-in-time delivery capabilities to serve the farmers' needs better. So the biggest impediment for any growth in any sector or lack of reliable data and data-driven decision-making capabilities. We brought in digital transformation and improved efficiency at every part of the value chain. Our deep tech intervention brings visibility and transparency to the whole value chain. Next slide, please. Our pioneer efforts on satellite remote sensing in aquaculture brings visibility to every stakeholder in our value chain. We have created unique and powerful data stack using comprehensive data collection done at various parts of the value chain. So we call it as a strategy of eyes in the sky and boots on the ground. So it provides us a very, very comprehensive data intelligence. And this data intelligence helps us forecast demand of input, supply of harvest, so that it provides deeper insights to the stakeholders such as input producers, seafood buyers, and banking, financial, insurance service providers too. Next slide, please. So the BFSI stakeholders have stayed away from this sector for a very long time due to the lack of risk management tools and platforms. Unlike agriculture, wherein like every other crop can be seen from the sky, where geographical information systems such as satellite remote sensing can be used efficiently, here the challenge is everything is underwater. So we may have to go for a comprehensive data intelligence solution. That is when I talked about we have got eyes in the sky and boots on the ground. So this comprehensive risk management solution enables banks and financial service providers to extend their products to the aquaculture stakeholders. We are now helping them on origination, underwriting, and also credit portfolio management, and further collection services through our Aqua Bazaar platform, where the farmers are selling their harvest. The next slide, please. We are now working with about 60,000 farmers in 4 major aquaculture production states in India, namely Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, and Gujarat. They contribute to about 60% of India's annual aquaculture production. And so far, with our intervention, we had transacted close to 800,000 pounds of sustainable seafood. And we are aiming at onboarding about 10,000 aqua partners and 150 seafood buyers in another 2 years. And this would help us serve about 1/5 of the aquaculture farmers in India. Next slide, please. So with our technology intervention, we are improving the farm productivity, and ultimately that results in the farmers' income raise. So we are contributing to the sustainable development goals that aim at improving responsible production and consumption too. So we are able to increase the farmers' productivity up to 20%, and this has got a considerable increase in their farm profits as well, farm revenue. And Further, our sustainable development goal interventions are improving responsible production and consumption, and also aiding to the ocean health. And it also promotes economic growth activities in the coastal communities. And I'm proud to say that 50% of our farmer success team is of women. So this largely contributes to the gender equality goals, because in such a harsh environment, women are not like engaged in these kind of roles. So with the digital intervention, we are able to bring women closer to the farmers service delivery. So this like we're really proud about that kind of an inclusion. And further, can you go to the next slide, please? So globally, there is a raise in the protein demand, and that shows there is a huge opportunity for the aquaculture growth as well. And thus, aquaculture could play a pivotal role in India's ambitious goal of improving farmers' income. And I see that there are such policy interventions like Prime Minister's Matsya Sampada Yojana, which is loosely translated into Fisheries Development Program, that are aiding the development in the sector. And also, I like to see the focus on credit guarantee schemes for aquaculture loans to the farmers. Institutions like World Bank can play a pivotal role on such programs, is my belief. And further, 1 out of 5 farmers are impacted by the diseases in shrimp aquaculture. While the adoption of insurance is, in aquaculture is abysmal, these farmers are running into huge losses when there is a NatCat, that is natural calamity event or disease event. So we had witnessed similar programs like Fasal Bima Yojana in agriculture to help farmers mitigate the risk. And I think a subvention of such farm insurance premium can help farmers efficiently mitigate the natural calamity events and disease-relevant risks in aquaculture farms. So this is something that I would love to discuss with the panel on how to improve the status quo in these two aspects in aquaculture value chain. So with that, I thank you for this great opportunity to speak along with such wonderful change makers in agri value chain. And I would be happy to provide more clarity when we are open to that discussion. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Raj. Last but not the least, a very important contribution. And I think this is an important subsector, which I think has been generally neglected. And I think with the National Fisheries Development Board and all coming up, I think it requires a little bit more comprehensive solution as we go forward. Thanks for your suggestions about what the World Bank should be doing in this space as well. And I think those are very valuable suggestions. So clearly you can see that I failed in my job as a chair. But the fact that we have still 90% of the original people still staying on shows that you have managed to get huge attention from people. So that's a very big credit. Normally we lose almost 50% people by this time. I think our retention rate is very high at this stage. So I will now go to my colleagues, Peter Cook, who has to stick to 5 minutes, and to my colleague Preeti from the World Bank, who has to stick for 5 minutes before I come for a final round with you. And I'm very thankful to you for answering all the questions so diligently. Kirti, thanks a lot. Prasanna, thanks a lot. Shashank, thanks a lot. Mayank. And then Raj, questions coming in on your way. Please look at them in the chat. No rest for you.
Everyone actually has a lot of questions, so please check them out.
Over to you, Peter, now. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, Parmesh, and thanks for everyone that's been presented. It's been very, informative as well as inspiring. You're doing a lot of great work. I just wanted to talk briefly about what IFC is doing in this AgTech space. Our disruptive technology team is essentially the venture capital team of IFC, and I'll just briefly talk about how we invest, what we've invested in recently, before just talking a bit about what I'm seeing from some of the companies that we heard from today. we generally invest in three modes. We invest Series B or later directly, late venture, early growth, typically 5 to 20 million. We also invest in seed and Series A capital, venture capital funds, and we co-invest also with some of those fund managers. That allows us to invest a little bit smaller, a little bit quicker in some companies. We're increasingly look at in our ag tech space, we're increasingly look at ag fintech or other digital platforms with a strong fintech component with our dedicated fintech team. And we're continuing to look at digital platforms, especially in smallholder markets such as India. And we really believe in the thesis that these platforms are delivering real value to small farmers to increase their income, which I think is great. The digital platform model was really the leading reason that IFC got involved in this ag tech space in late 2018, because we were able to bring. We recognized that digitization was just getting started, at least from our perspective. Just getting started in the ag tech space, and we were able to bring our knowledge and skills from other sectors that we invest in that have digitized earlier. But we see great startups in the ag tech digital platform space, but we continue to also look at other ag tech subsectors. And I'll just mention a few here, such as precision agri. We invested in C-Tree from Israel. In agri-bio, we invested in Pattern Ag, which is working in US and Brazil. And in post-harvest, shelf extension technology, we invested in Appeal Science, was operating out of the US. But overall, since 2018, we've invested in 9 transactions for about $65 million, and including 1 fund and 8 direct or co-investment investments in companies. And as IFC, we think that we can bring global experience in ag tech, but also in agribusiness, where we have upwards of $4 billion portfolio across a range of agribusiness sectors in a specialized agribusiness team that I work with closely. We can bring global trade finance and commercial connections to agri and food companies. In India, we've invested in a couple of companies in the space. AgroStar, a physical digital platform, but many of you probably know, provides advisory and inputs, as well as Way Cool Foods, which is a digital and highly automated farm to retail company, supply chain company, and food products company operating in southern India. Both these companies have raised recent rounds. So I'll just mention briefly what I heard from the companies that we were hearing from today. And I think that we're seeing great progress in the digital platform thesis, and with many investors, including IFC, had a few years ago, and I think obviously these founders had even earlier than that. And I think these platforms are bearing great fruit, and it's great to see. And particularly, I think it's great to see some of the focus solutions that are being provided in more narrow areas, such as fiber and even dairy, which is not that narrow, but we've seen many of these kinds of great sector specific and platforms. Look, I think it's clear that India is leading the space with these agri-digital platforms. It's developed many great solutions for small farmers, and I look forward to seeing the expansion of these platforms into other smallholder markets and/or just the knowledge transfer into other markets such as Africa or Southeast Asia. And I think it's needed there as well. And we continue to look for the growth and adoption by these small farmers of these of the solutions provided by the platforms. We think we'll see continued horizontal M&A across these markets, and then probably in the next few years we'll start to see the strong startups exit to public markets or to strategic players as their value becomes apparent outside of this specific startup ag tech scene. But I think we look to start seeing that pretty soon. So thanks again for the great presentations, and happy to answer any questions in the chat, but it's a pleasure to be part of it. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. So clearly, IFC, bank and IFC did a deep dive in AgTech, and we made a presentation to our board. We are encouraged to make more investments in this space collectively. So clearly, all of us are very actively looking at what you are doing, and I look forward to how we're going to really go further into this space. I will bring in my colleague Preeti Kumar, who leads a number of our investment operations in agriculture and food space from the World Bank side, to also give the World Bank perspective on this. Preeti, over to you.
Thank you, Parmesh, and thank you for inviting me as a discussant, and a great introduction by Mark, and listening to all the 5 agri-innovators. It was absolutely fascinating. I mean, I would hesitate to even try and summarize or say anything. I like the way Kirti said, I wanted to do something for people that I have grown up with. And of course, with DeHaat, Arya, we have some close connections in the bank. I also had to go yesterday and actually checked out Reshamandi and Aquaconnect, and Animall, to see the kind of value chain work that they're doing in the digital space. Very, very new. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is connect all my colleagues in the India office to this very specialized sort of digital work that some of the AgTech people are doing here. So thanks for this. I will just endeavor to give a few, tell a little bit about the work that I am doing and my colleagues are doing in the World Bank. Like Peter said, they in the IFC, IFC deals directly with the private sector. In the World Bank, which is the government side of the World Bank group, we partner with state governments and national governments. And we have projects, as Parmesh had earlier said, it's roughly an overall portfolio of about $4 billion and growing every year by about $1 billion or so, or maybe less. But our spread outreach is in about 25 states. An average ticket size of a project or an investment operation is roughly about $150 million on average. It could be lesser or even much more, as going to $500 million. The point is that in the agriculture sector, we are engaged right from the production side, just like you showed the agricultural life cycle. Obviously, in today's discourse of 2022, across from productivity, right up to markets. And now there's a lot of impetus also on food loss and waste, on post-harvest infrastructure and management. So definitely not moving away from the production side of things, but giving more kind of, attention to the higher segments of the value chain as you go towards the consumer side. Now, there, digital, of course, plays a very important role. And I, for one, have been involved with some of you here. DeHaat, the way we get into or we motivate the government, because the ultimate objective of all our projects is basically to improve incomes and doing justice to the doubling farmer income policy of Government of India. A lot of that cannot be done in a project where you want to, in a 5-year period, reach out to roughly 3 to 5 lakh smallholder farmers, unless you bring more transformative approaches within your projects. And that's where the digital space comes in. DeHaat and WRMS type of AgTech players have directly got into MOUs with farmer producer organizations. In some of our states, governments are getting into direct procurement of AgTech, AgFinTech firms to get services into the landscape within their states. Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra have done a lot of such direct procurements. We have brought in remote sensing. SatShore has done some work in the fisheries sector to help us try and understand through remote sensing. So whether it's digital agriculture, it is on the FPO space, trying to bring more enterprise-based solutions to FPOs and the input-output linkages. All the stuff that you talked about, we have sort of been working on. And now we're also trying to get into the fintech space. So it's nice to see, for example, Shashank, you mentioned that now AgTech players are also getting into the finance, agri-finance. And I think that's the convergence, the importance of convergence between AgTech and fintech is very important, as we are seeing. So as you can see, there's a lot of potential to work with the World Bank group, both IFC and us. And I want to, based on our experience, just give 3 or 4 kind of high-level takeaways based on our real experience on the ground. The first thing I want to say is that it's all about good, robust public-private partnerships. How do we make better partnerships with all of you, with the state governments, directly getting the state governments linking up? And without these PPPs, scale is going to be difficult, and also services continue to be expensive for the farmer. And that's where we have realized that it's both the private sector and the government that needs to play a kind of, play their respective roles better, whether it's a wider pipe of curated services from the private sector addressing the demand side, or the government providing public good infra support or addressing viability gap funding. Many times we see state governments are saying, directly get into the MOU with the FPO, and that doesn't quite help. The government has to come in and provide the initial capitalization. We are running some agribusiness challenge funds, for example, in Assam and Maharashtra, where the state governments are more proactive in providing these gap funding and initial capitalization to the AgTech and the AgFinTech firms. And I do believe that's kind of a role that's important. So I think my first point on to just keep in everybody's mind is how do we create more stronger, more robust, more long-standing PPP kind of approaches, which brings players like you to state governments. The second thing that we are seeing is that investments in demand side capacity building is not enough. In the government side, there is a big digital divide still. There isn't enough, understanding. Their learning curve is still very slow, and capacity building efforts towards farmers aren't as fast as how quickly technology is evolving. So what should be a kind of an ecosystem or a systems approach to create the demand side within the government? And there could be different solutions, but I was talking to some colleagues internally. This could also mean for the government or to create some funding mechanism where, say, downstream players like the KVKs or the FPOs or the primary agricultural cooperative societies in India start having digital literacy, which is lacking right now. So the second point is on the demand side capacity building. Unless that is transformed significantly, we're still going to be seeing some incremental patches of beautiful work here and there, but we need more scale there. I think also getting agriculture universities and centers of excellence involved at the state level will be very important. And to what extent are you guys as AgTech players trying to influence this larger consortium of players in the governmental public sector system, I think is important. The third point, of course, as I mentioned, agri-finance and AgTech have to come together. Farmers cannot afford these services. Tomorrow, there are drones coming for fertigation. There's remote sensing for soil moisture. The technology is evolving in such a fast pace that FPOs are not able to finance these services. So then what are the solutions here on providing incentives or viability gap funding, or sort of creating more of a platform where, like DeHaat, like Shashank said, you've got AgTech firms, SkyMet and DeHaat working with the State Bank of India to not just leverage their tech platform, but also to, in the same spatial space, provide agri-finance lending. So getting that two together. The last point, and I'll close with this last point, is around privacy and protection issues that we are seeing within our state governments. Every AgTech player that comes into a state creates its own kind of fresh database, and that takes about a year and a half. There's a cost of acquisition related to that. And then the farmer doesn't know what is happening with that data or what happens to that data once the relationship ends with the AgTech player. And this is where I think there is now thinking around what should be the data aggregation and portability platform for both farms and farmers. And I think farmers need to have some discretion on when they want to give their data and when they don't want to give their data. So I think the privacy aspects and the trust deficit is still, not fully overcome, I believe, within the governmental system, and then more is needed. I think lots of opportunities ahead. World Bank and IFC coming together with different kinds of platforms with various AgTech players. We're looking forward to that and seeing how we can create funding mechanisms or support the government with a better enabling environment so that digital agriculture scales up. I think this whole, finally, this Digi stack, the national Digi stack that the government of India is creating or has a vision for, that also provides a very excellent opportunity to crowd in, a lot of such private players and innovators and platforms. So with that, I'll end and thank you for giving this opportunity. Parmesh, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Preeti, for staying above the limit. So I would now sort of not try to summarize what we discussed, but just raise a couple of issues so that we don't end up this as a talk shop, but really develop something as we go forward there. So clearly, I think what we are looking for is what we are seeing globally is that the cost of acquiring new clients and farmers, mobilizing them, and doing a lot of training and lots of other activities, when the private sector does it, it reduces its ability to go for a larger scale because you are making investment in what should have been a public good investment there. So what should be the public good investment the government and we should do to enable you to go to scale faster? So because what you are doing, government will not be able to do. The bundling what you are doing, bringing so many disintegrated players there together and all, that's very unique. All the platform solutions is there. So what are the kinds of investments should be done in a public good to make these platform-based solutions scale up faster, basically? And that will be unique to each of the solution, but it will be also generic there. That's one question I would like sort of some kind of quick response from you so that we can build a value proposition. So Niti Aayog and the government is asking us to invest in this agri-data stack as a project, basically, and to see how we should invest in that. But we should end up investing in a way that undermines what are the efforts you have done. It should be done in a way that it adds value to what you are doing. So that's one issue. The second is, like we see Mark and Omnivore really being the first players in this and having a very kind of patient combination of patient capital, investment capital doing there. How do we grow this sector completely in terms of financing? What would be the way by which we will be able to bring in the financing? IFC will also invest, no doubt, but I think we need a financing architecture for these, particularly the solutions which were presented today. The platform solutions require a slightly different investment philosophy and strategy than what individual kind of investments require. So what should be the way we should invest in, should be the financing kind of solutions we should invest in? So these are the two questions I have from my side. And I would just now like to sort of go through one round of whatever you want to say at the end. And I'll go in a reverse order this time. We'll start with Raj this time, basically. Please, your final thoughts before we close.
So Parmesh, yes, I had mentioned a couple of thoughts at the end of my presentation as well. Like I would speak for my sector because here the risks are really huge because unlike agriculture, every hour is like very important for the crop to go upwards or downwards. So it's a very dynamic environment that we're talking about. Here, the adoption of insurance is kind of abysmal. So that also negatively impacts the sectoral growth because it's becoming a gamble, right? Like either you get it right or you get it wrong. So it's kind of getting binary. So that's when we think like we need to work on the right risk mitigation strategies. So I do sincerely think that we should be able to bring in some kind of a subvention of insurance premium for the sector so that like it becomes more resilient. So once it becomes more resilient and predictable, then we should be able to look at the growth. So that's one point that I would like to mention. The other point is something like a credit guarantee schemes, wherein like most of the banks and NBFCs are now finding this platform is providing them visibility into the aquaculture value chain and to kind of take more positive direction into that if there are like some programs that is supporting them on credit guarantee schemes, and that would also largely help the sectoral growth here.
I'll connect you with our senior insurance specialist, Kalakonda, who has worked on the national crop insurance and all. I'll ask him to develop a pilot with you on the aqua insurance side, basically. So I will immediately connect with him, because I think this is an important unmet need. We are too obsessed with crop insurance. We haven't done anything on aqua insurance for a long time. Okay,
That
so
would be
now
great.
let me go to Mark. You want to come in here, or would you want to come
I
in
was
at the
just going
end?
to say, I was going to, no, I'll come in last.
Sure, sure. So, Kirti, why don't you come in now? Your final thoughts. You had the most intensive interaction with the participants in the chat. I saw that, and thanks for being very patient. Go ahead, Kirti.
Yes, thank you everyone for the questions. I think on our part, the final thoughts perhaps are on the line that we are a platform-based company. So what we are trying to do is consolidate a very fragmented market using technology and build solutions on top of that. If there could be more work on the deep tech side of things. So for example, healthcare is going to require some deep tech solutions, some deep tech coming in, and then eventually somebody commercializing it. It could be us, but as of now, that's not where our strengths and focus is. But if somebody can come in, if the government can fund projects, institutes, agencies, which can build deep tech products and focus on commercializing them, then us as a platform can provide the distribution, which can eventually lead the transformation. So I think if somebody actually wants to work, there were people asking for working on startup ideas, etc. I think if somebody has the research mindset for it and the patience to build something deep tech, I think that would be something that would be one great thing to work on.
Sure. No, I think that's a very good idea. And I think we also have a number of projects which would benefit from your cattle trading platform as well. We have livelihood projects in almost every state in India, and everyone works on cattle trading there and does that in a very inefficient way. So I would also connect you with that platform where farmers are already mobilized, not only around milk animal, but goats also. We have one of the world's largest goat trading thing, which we are financing right now in one of our projects, basically through Goat Trust and other people. So I think a lot of those efforts would benefit not just from deep tech, but the first tech, which you have bought into that space there at that stage. So we will definitely have a good chat with you on that as well. Okay.
Looking forward.
So next, I'll go to Mayank now. Mayank, your thoughts now.
Thank you, Parmesh. So my thoughts are on the textile and apparel segment of India. It's basically, see, if you look at textile and apparel segment, there is Flipkart doing some fast fashion. There is Shein that has come in India and done fast fashion. But if you look at the traditional sectors, like the traditionally large players that were available in India, most of them have no inheritance available or heirs available. Now there are people, there are companies or the brands that were available, but nobody is looking at them. And I believe as long as there is a player which is basically making sure that the entire ecosystem has a layer of quality transparency across the board and being able to fulfill that, cut down the margins, make sure that the pricing is under control, make it economical, have a circular economy on top of it, and being able to give out entire basically you being able to back channel your way through the entire supply chain and being able to know which stakeholders produced what, and then finally be able to reconstruct that asset, utilize that brand, and then go back to the consumer. I think that is what textile and apparel segment in India really is looking forward to. That's my parting thought.
Thanks a lot, Mayank. And we work with about 1 million weavers in our programs. We have a whole livelihood program. We have a non-farm sector expert whom I would like to, talk with you and see what we
Sure.
can do. We have about 38 producer companies of weavers basically which are working across the country. So that would be something we would be very much welcome if they develop some kind of collaboration with you very directly there also. Okay,
Makes sense. Let's do
so
that.
thanks a lot, Mayank. Over to now Prasanna. Prasanna, I think a lot of people in our programs know you very well, but what do you think? What are your thoughts after listening to questions and the thoughts there? What should we do as a public good to make sure that this warehousing, collateralization, and these kinds of solutions grow not incrementally but exponentially?
Yeah, I think the initiation has already been made. In one of the projects, Parmesh, that we are partnering with the World Bank group, with IFC, in fact, is to make a implementation plan for democratization of warehouse receipt financing in India, specifically looking at sub 1,000-ton warehouses, and in fact, in the smaller warehouses. So that's something that I think is a great initiative, which really puts the focus on this particular infrastructure which is available, and the ability to leverage that available infrastructure. So I think that's one thing which has already been initiated, and I would really hope that as part of the recommendations we would be able to come out with an integrated solution of overlaying modern technology and the new age startups, and the way they could enable the entire warehouse receipt financing landscape in the country. So that's one. The other thing that I really believe that, with the convening power of the World Bank that can be enabled, is the national logistics portal and the work around that. And I think with a very specific focus around agri last mile logistics. So that the focus on that aspect is not lost amongst the large logistic need that the national portal would really be solving for. I think that is what I would really be looking at, from as a very meaningful contribution from the World Bank.
Thanks a lot, Prasanna. So on these, we will follow up with you with dedicated people, because again, the government's also asking us to develop a more enabling ecosystem project on agri-logistics. And I think that's a very important thing, because that will enable you to grow much faster if we had the enabling ecosystem there. But what should be done in that way? We don't want to design that project without really talking to people like you, who will really give us more advice on what we should be investing in. But there's a policy issue, there's an enabling thing, but there's also the capacity issue on agro-logistics. Generally, there is huge illiteracy among the agriculture ministry and the planners on agri-logistics there. And so that's why we don't get the policy response of the kind we get there also. So I think, but I think we are also wanting to sponsor a very good course on agro-logistics in top premier institutions, so that we build a good. So there's also this whole thing about that all of our agriculture universities and all are way behind in terms of really looking at this modern ecosystem which we're talking about. The fact that we have less entrepreneurs coming from the agriculture ecosystem and more coming from the technology ecosystem is also problematic there. So I think we would like to invest in really developing this incubation platform as we go forward, in the mainstream agriculture institutions. So what we see in other countries is that generally the CEO or chief operating officer comes from agriculture, and the CEO comes from technology, and that's how very interesting models are coming up there. But in India, we see less of that. Actually, we see less of that. So what should we do to do that is also equally important as we go forward, because it's creating the next generation of professional capacity among the people who are coming. Otherwise, all of them enter the government system and then really are not really able to even develop the enabling ecosystem to do that. So this is also something which I think we should do as a public good investment, because I don't think it's impossible for a private investment to do that. So good point. We will come back to you on that. Last but not the least, Shashank, coming back to you, a lot of questions were related to you, and you have a ringside seat on, and you are the most aspirational. You want to go to 20 million. I just want to ask you again question. 20 million will be all made out of India, or you want to go somewhere else also and make these numbers out of going to other geographies where we are ready to make public good investments in Africa, because we want to build a kind of a tech highway between India and Africa. So would you be interested in such an idea?
So as I said, this is something which has been shifting. So I wouldn't surprise that next year at the same time you will hear 30 million instead of 20. So but coming to your question, first focus is definitely the India, because again India itself is huge country with huge diversity. So first focus is definitely India, and we believe that within India alone, again we can reach to that level of mass. But at the same time, we believe that the kind of knowledge or the understanding we have developed, and we could transform that grassroots knowledge into these digital interfaces. All these tech interfaces are highly relevant for all the geographies where you have significant higher percentage of smallholders, whether it's Southeast Asia or East Africa. So, but again, aspiration is not here to go there directly. But if there is any licensing opportunity, again, I mean, we wouldn't mind to explore. Coming to your question here, again, not in context of DeHaat, largely, I think the first and the thought on top of the mind is just around collaboration with the greater impact. I strongly believe, and again, have been seeing the way how overall industry and the space has been evolving since last 8-9 years. I think this is the best time we should think around collaboration, because I think it's overall is the right state of mind. Everyone more or less has started talking same words. People are thinking at same frequency, whether it's government or again global organizations like you, startups, corporate, even farmers, in fact now. So the kind of ecosystem we have as of now, the physical as well as digital infra, it's a high time, and it's the right time we should start thinking about collaboration, right? I mean, Reshamandi guy, I mean, he mentioned about the way how they collaborated with another agri-tech startup, right? I mean, Prasanna is here, DeHaat and Arya is working together. If I think this year itself, I think we collaborated for more than 15 to 20,000 ton of storage already, right? I mean, that's how again collectively we could create impact with reduced marginal effort. There are infinite possibilities where we all can collaborate for a greater impact. I think that is like one thing I just wanted to say. In context of DeHaat and again World Bank as an organization, while FPO is such a strong focus for everyone, including government of India, again I think that is one area where we as an organization we really want to take a deeper bet, and not I know that in past there had been few instances, but not as a service provider and operating, at fence. No, with a deeper engagement. Again, across the value chain, whether it's input or output and everything, right? So we believe that I think that is one area probably if we get opportunity would like to explore down the line.
Thanks a lot, Shashank. I don't think we view you as a service provider. I think we view you as a more ecosystem builder, platform players. All of you are in a very different category, and that's why we have to think of a slightly unique kind of partnership. The question is that the government should also have a policy which allows that to happen, because we will continuously make investments from the bank side, primarily in with the government, basically providing that ecosystem. But I think government's also thinking very differently. And so I think we will engage with all of you at some stage and bring you in a kind of a consultative process in which we can really think through what our next set of investment should look like and how we should invest in. Mark, I'll give you a final word,
Sure.
to make some comments about what you heard and what are your thoughts about going forward before we close.
Absolutely. It was a wonderful webinar. Again, many thanks to Parmesh, to Vivek, to Preeti, to Peter, and the team from the IFC and the World Bank for having us here. Thanks to all of the people that presented from the Omnivore portfolio. I have three quick thoughts because this has run way over, and people have a right to go on with their nights and days if that's where they are. One is, I think there is one problem that no farmer platform can address, and that is the issue of land. The government of India knows that land reform is critical. It is long overdue. And when I say land reform, I don't mean the land reform of the 50s and the 60s, which kind of broke up the zamindari estates. What I mean is land reform where someone can buy land, sell land, lease land, have a third party manage their land and not be worried about expropriation, have a digital land registry, and break the local monopoly of the patwari, and the rent seeking associated with it. And that is something that no farmer platform can handle. It is a lift that only the government is capable of. And that is where, if I were the World Bank, I would be spending all of my time. What I worry about in some of these digitization initiatives is every time the government of India wants to do something, there's a huge crowding out effect. And what has happened is, you've had for the last 6 years or more, farmer platforms step into a void and solve problems that were never solved before, that the government never were able to solve before. And what I don't, and so when I hear the government of India say, oh, we want to get more into digitization, it's like, okay, well, it's going fine, right? I mean, I think there are things that the government has, that only the government can do. Only the government could do the UPI, and we've all been able to benefit from that. And only the government can solve the challenge of land. And we will all, all farmers and smallholders will benefit from land being the big thing to push. That's one. The second is, Kirti very wisely pointed out that this is a bit of an incomplete ecosystem. What has taken off in the last 5 or 6 years are marketplaces and fintech and platforms, and essentially plays around digitization. But there's not enough deep tech, and there is negligible amounts of agri-food life sciences work that's happening. There are a handful of credible startups that are working on problems related to food processing or biologicals or inputs, things that require laboratories and PhDs. And that part of the ecosystem is broken. Omnivore has launched a new initiative around that called Omnix Bio, just because there's literally no funding. And if I were the government of India, the biggest thing that I would do is train my focus not towards the digital space where you have all of these thousands of startups and entrepreneurs coming up, but on the fact that the life sciences ecosystem in agriculture and food in India is just broken. It's non-existent. And that's where we need pump priming. That's where we need accelerators and extra help. We don't need a crowding out effect in the digital space. And then finally, to your point about agri-universities, the challenge that we have with agri-universities, and everyone here who runs an agri-tech startup knows this, is that they're basically where failed doctors go for their undergrad. Every student who studies at an agri-university in India are mostly people that didn't clear medicine, and then they didn't clear dentistry, and then they didn't get vet, and they find themselves getting a BSc in agri. That is the dark, not so secret of our agri-universities because of the way talent moves through 11th and 12th in India. And so a massive revamping of those curricula to make them much more entrepreneurial, to direct that talent into agri-techs, to direct that talent into fundamental research, as opposed to where it goes right now, which is trying to get a job, in FMCG rural sales, That is a need of the hour and a major opportunity. So with those only slightly barbed comments, I will say that I truly appreciate the chance for everyone here to talk about this today, and it was a wonderful webinar.
Thanks, Mark, and Preeti is listening to you. And when we source our next generation of ideas on what we want to do, this would be a very important one. Digital registry, land registry. Actually, I'm talking to Saurabh Garg, who is now the DG of UID, basically. And they are looking at a farm registry on the lines of UID. And also a project going on mapping every land and on the line of Google Maps as a kind of, Google is also working with us on a similar kind of a project right now, in which we will be able to do a large pilot in India on that also. So I think we have really exhausted the people. I'm actually in India right now. I'm on leave right now. And this is the only webinar I'm doing on my leave because I feel that this was such an exciting opportunity for us to learn from such insightful innovations going on and something very exciting happening in India right now at this stage. I want to thank all of you, Mark, Preeti, Peter, Shashank, Prasanna, Kirti, Raj, and Mayank, and all the people for staying. We are still 80 people staying, which is, I think, a world record right now at this stage. So thank you guys, and we will be in touch with all of you on following number of issues we discussed today. Thanks a lot. Much appreciate your insights and your efforts. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Very much, everyone.